All right, terrific. Well, thanks, everybody. I think we're going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Alder's on orderliness. Anyway, welcome everybody to our meeting of the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee. There's a few things. First, we have minutes from our May 5th meeting. We can't vote on it. Quorum.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll hold off on that. So I want to announce that on July 22nd, that the Campaign Finance Board, together with the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, is sponsoring the hot ticket in good government and civic engagement in New York City. On July 22nd, the event is called American Elections at the Crossroads. This will be held at the Greenberg Lounge at the NYU School of Law in Vanderbilt Hall at 40 Washington Square South. The information is not yet available on the Campaign Finance Board's website, but it will be soon. But please mark July 22nd all day for this event. There are some people who you know who will be in prominent roles during this. Fritz Schwartz, who's the Chief Counsel of the Brennan Center, will be welcoming the attendees, followed by a panel on small donors versus super PACs. So we're very excited about this. John Sarbanes from Maryland is going to be on this panel, along with some other terrific folks. Our luncheon speaker is Anne Ravel, who you all know is the chair of the FEC, and it's really an honor to have her come and speak. At 1:45, there's a panel on public financing and talking about ROI at the voting booth. Amy will be on the board, along with Tish James, our public advocate, John Mollenkoff, who is at CUNY, and former Congress member Tom Petrie, Republican in Washington. Petra. Thank you. Thank you, Petra. Wow. Okay.
Mr. Petri from Wisconsin.
Cool. All right. And then another panel, following panel of making public financing a reality. Again, with some terrific people from big government groups, from Maryland, from folks from New York. And then closing out the conference will be the chair of the Campaign Finance Board, Rose Hearn. And so we're very excited about that. So this is really going to be a terrific event, and I encourage everybody to attend. It is open to the public as well. And so with that, I think, do we now have a forum with Danielle?
I'm sorry.
Welcome, Danielle. I hope you're dry.
I'm dry, but I'm patient for my subway experience. Thank you.
So maybe we'll turn this to our minutes from our May 5th meeting. And do I have any comments or questions before we make a vote to approve? Okay, with no comments, do I
I was going to say motion to approve.
Motion to approve, second? Is there a second?
Sass.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. I'd like to turn it over to Amy for her report.
Okay. I just have a brief report. I just want to mention that this fall there are actually going to be 2 city council elections in addition to a handful of other elections throughout the city. There'll be a special election in Council District 51 that's anticipated to be held on the date of the general election. And in Council District 53, there's no Council District 53, there's Council District 23. There will be a election held at the primary and general election. There'll be a full off-year election there. Because the law requires it, we'll be issuing a full voter guide for that election because it is a regularly scheduled election. The public financing, since the election was announced yesterday, the deadline to join the campaign finance program for that election is June 22nd, next Monday.
Oh.
So there's a 7-day window to join the program, and so the announcement has been sent to all the potential candidates, but I'm announcing it here. June 22nd is
Were the
the
current
certification.
occupants or the previous occupants of this?
Mark Waldron was the council member for the 23rd Council District who just resigned his post. And it's anticipated, I mean, been announced in the papers that Vincent Negizio, who is the council member in Council District 51, will be resigning his post at the end of August. Okay.
Where's the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. And also, I just want to announce a good piece of news from our CFB voter assistance family, that Sabrina, who is such a vital part of our work, had her baby, healthy, happy baby, on May 21st, Lorenzo Castillo. So congratulations to Sabrina and her whole family.
Fantastic.
We'll make an announcement for you, Rich.
The Twitterverse will be going crazy over this.
That'll be the first thing I'm doing is tweeting.
Next, Anita, you're up.
Sure. So my report today will be brief, but I wanted to share that basically what we're doing is gearing up for the summer and the fall, creating our plans, and that starts with building a team. So we're looking to build a team of summer interns. We have one at this point who we hired. Her name is Noor Javid, and she's a student from John Jay College, and she's majoring in political science and economics. We selected Noor for various reasons. She's very talented, but she also traveled with us to our advocacy day and made quite an impact. So we're really happy to have her part of the team this summer. She's not here today because she's out doing a workshop, both she and Stuart. So we're really excited about that. Just so you know, we are looking for a few other interns, so people have really wonderful candidates. As you know, we're also looking for a new youth voter coordinator, and we're looking for a seasonal field operator, a really seasoned seasonal field operator. So if we have candidates, if you have candidates, send them my way. We do have descriptions, so if you'd like me to share them with you, I can do that as well.
If you could tweet them, we'll retweet.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good idea.
They're posted on our website.
Yeah, they're on our
But
website
you
for
should-
sure.
Yeah.
you should be tweet and CC us, so I tweet, and then we will
Okay.
definitely
All right, thank you.
be, you know I will.
On September 22nd is going to be National Voter Registration Day. As you remember last year, we did very well again. And so even though this is a quieter election year, we kind of consider this kind of gear up for 2016. And there's a lot of work to do to gear up for 2016. So we will work with our partners. We are looking for more partners. So again, I'm so happy to see someone here from the Red Hook initiative. So we're hoping that she will sign on as a partner as well. We are looking to get partners from every corner of our city to help us registering New Yorkers and making sure that they are signed up to be part of our Get Out the Vote campaigns as such. So we'll stay in contact with you with those things. Now, Stuart Armstrong, as many of you know, developed a presentation that was given to our agency-based voter programs, the Local Law 29 agencies that also fall under the Mayor's Directive 1. Part of that calls for agencies to register the public to vote. And he has completed a presentation that will be shared with all of the agencies, and it will help them to train their frontline staff. The reason I'm excited to talk about that also is because we have a member of the agency-based voter program with us today, Andrew Miller. I don't know if we can invite Andrew up from now to talk about, I'd love to invite him to come up and to talk about what his experience is like. He's been doing this for several years. So if you could please share with us and we can glean from your experience.
Sure, should I sit here?
Yes, please, and make sure you turn on your microphone. There you go.
Thank you, and good evening, members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, Executive Director of Local Press, on behalf of Commissioner Bill Chung It's a pleasure to be here to really talk about the work that we do with the voter assistance, I keep saying commission, I have to get it out of my head, advisory committee. It's wonderful to be here about the work that we've done together over the past, I would say about 8 years now, at least.
Wow.
Yeah, about really making sure that communities across the city exercise their right to vote. And we've done a lot. So I just want to give you some broad, some ideas of what we've done in just the past year alone. For example, we have the New York City Youth Poet Laureate Program. It's a voting-themed teen spoken word poetry competition designed to energize youth voters. Since its inception, the program has engaged countless young people across the city through workshops, performances, and competitions.
Mayor, attention please. Mayor, attention please. This is the Applied Executive Director, the Emergency Action Plan Director. We conducted tests on the 7th floor. Please disregard any of
So we'll disregard that. We have voter registration drives and trainings. I know Anita has been working on this right now through our Summer Youth Employment Program, where young people are enrolled in the program. And we're thrilled about that. I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about the number of young people that have been registered.
Mayor, attention please.
We have the Poetry Slam, and then following that, we had 2 days leading up to the general elections. Our youth poet ambassadors actually conducted a social media campaign urging their peers to vote, which is thrilling to get them really involved. We had New York City Votes Youth Service Day, where students encourage adults to go out to the polls and distribute I voted stickers to voters exiting poll sites. And I've seen a lot of people wearing those, so they're doing a great job. DYCD also posted voter spotlight buttons on its homepage and supported New York City Vote's social media campaign through retweets and shares, which seem very familiar with. And we were so pleased that DYCD's efforts were recognized about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We received the Outstanding Public Outreach Award from NYC Campaign, so it's terrific. And then building on these efforts, we're so happy to be working with the Mayor's Office of Operations, Bonsley Cunningham, the Campaign Finance Board, and the Board of Elections as well on ensuring that we have compliance with Mayoral Directive 1 and Local Law 63. You know, that requires DYCD along with 16 other agencies to offer voting registration applications whenever someone applies for or renews a service. For DYCD, this is very complex because unlike other city agencies, we don't provide direct services. It's all through it's all through community-based organizations at thousands of locations across the city, so that it becomes more challenging. And the locations could be a classroom, it could be a community center, a runaway and homeless youth shelter, or even an ESOL class. So that presents a world of challenges. We also have restrictions on like some federally funded programs cannot engage in voter registration activities. It's against the law. So, and additionally, what we came up against is, as you know, this governor's election last year actually created new political parties. So the Board of Elections had to print probably 1 million new applications, including the ones with the city code on it. So they were just recently printed, and there's the director. They were recently printed, and we're very pleased that, again, working with the Board of Elections, we were actually able to distribute over 250,000 voter registration cards to our community-based organizations. And that just took place a couple of weeks ago. And the next step is we're going to be working with Anita and her team and doing, as she mentioned earlier, on doing the trainings to our CBOs on how to properly conduct voter registration efforts. And that's multiple tiers, training the providers, doing training the trainer activities, as well as there's an online voter registration training. So we're pleased with that. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to sort of highlight some of the work we're doing, and I'm sure Anita has a lot more she wants to say. And we look forward to continuing to work with you with the time ahead.
Thank you for all your efforts.
Some questions. So how many agencies do you work with?
We
And
work-
how many kids does that represent?
Well, again, we picked 250,000 because that's the number of participants that are in our programs.
And how many of those are either at voting age or eligible to
Well,
register?
the law is really about not only the participants, but their parents. So generally, a parent would go and enroll their young person in the after-school program. So it would be both the young person and their parents would have the opportunity to register to vote.
So I'm just trying to get a sense of the numbers. Is it 250? Is it 500?
Well, we put in
750?
250,000 just based on the number of participants. We know that not every person that would come would necessarily register to vote. Or take the
But that's your estimate?
Yeah.
I will say, you know, it is a challenge. So we've been going out and there are 300 students, 400 students, and they're coming in and out, and they're with their parents, but they could range anywhere really from the age of 15 to usually we see around 19. But the majority of them are on the younger side. And so to try to answer your question, they are usually on the younger side of it, so you have to go through who's eligible to vote based on their age, who's eligible to vote based on their status, their citizenship status as well. So it's all of that you're filtering as you're in there and meeting them.
You operate the summer youth employment program, right?
Correct.
Isn't there what is the upper limit?
It's 24 now.
Oh, okay, so you're gonna be, I assume, trying to see if the register goes to.
Yes. And thanks to Onita and his fine staff, I'm sure we're gonna have some moving numbers there.
Okay.
We need to enter one intern.
And one staff member.
We're very well staffed to go up and.
Well, if I might make a suggestion from no one's haven't had some employment program. At like Medgar Evers has several hundred, and there's certain days which they all have to gather together, right? Tomorrow, right? Oh,
It's tomorrow and next week. They have 400 students.
yeah, but also throughout the summer they do that, right? And I assume the other programs do that to the other major centers, so that might be.
So we both have those days, and we also have workshops, where
Okay.
people
Right,
receive
yeah.
various information, like
Yeah.
financial literacy workshops. which
There's a
are
lot of
suitable.
opportunities.
And having some of maybe the SYP participants actually conducting some of the voter outreach.
Right. Well, that's really a good point, because the orientation, while everyone is together, it's still, they're focused on registering for the program. So you are, not that you're necessarily competing, because it's an audience of students who are sitting, waiting. But at the same time, they're preoccupied. Their minds are really more so on getting their paperwork through. So if there is opportunity to go back,
Right.
even
There's
if it's not in the
opportunity.
huge numbers, they may be a little bit more ready. So that's a good point.
First of all, thank you for the incredible work that your agency is doing. In addition to just giving the paperwork, is there a civics lesson? Is there any information where these young individuals are told the consequences and the import of voting, and the decisions that are made at various levels of government, from city council to Congress?
Yes, there are actually, in a lot of our, particularly Beacon programs, we actually have a component of that, where we explain to them why voting matters. So yeah, that is built into particularly our after-school programs.
Thank you.
And we have a service learning program as well that encourages that.
The agency has also offered to join in with our student voter registration day as well. So SVRD is during the day, but then to move into their afternoon programs with SVRD on the same time, at the same time. So that would be a great help, opportunity to do it all.
Before I leave, I just want to thank Mr. Ryan and the Board of Elections for their work in making sure we distributed those 250,000 voter registration cards. It was a big effort. Ms. Fasella was awesome, so send her my gratitude.
Thank you, and it's important. And I think while we're considering new ways moving forward to encourage young people to participate in the process vis-a-vis technology and things like that, it's also important to keep the process rolling in what we have, and you guys do a great job with that, so thank you.
And I want to say one of the things is that it's surprising and good things to start. And as for now, I understand you guys are doing good things. But why don't you include that first day of school, parents voter registration day should be. Parents can register when school is open in September 9 or 10. That day should be emphasized. Parents voter registration day action should be in the school system. I think that can be added on this program.
Okay.
I was going to
I was going to ask about days for parent-teacher conferences, because a lot of the time the parents come in. I know for my kids' school it was Thursday nights and Fridays, and so you have a lot of traffic.
Okay. We do have parent-teacher conferences from time to time, and that would be an opportunity as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And there's an item, track programs.
So Anita's gonna,
Anita's gonna do that?
well, Anita was gonna, I mean, I think that we, wanted to get, we've been, one of the things we're trying to do is get our members more involved, and so Anita prepared this document that kind of describes all the different programs that we do, and try and, talk about, what people are interested in, where we kind of need help, and, but Anita, if you wanna just, go right, I mean, these are just some of the things we're doing, but there are definitely other opportunities.
Absolutely. So it's included in your kit, and for everyone else here, this is part of what we're trying to do is to continue to engage our committee to work along with the staff on the programs that we're doing. So many of the people out there have been working on these, over there have been working on these projects. So we had a few things that were here: Student Voter Registration Day, National Voter Registration Day, Get Out the Vote activities, our Community Outreach and Field Operations and Advocacy Day for 2016. But really the thought really is for each of the committee members to start to align themselves in all or some or one of the activities where they feel they have, where you feel you have your strengths, and you may have things that you can share across all of them. So we'd love for you to kind of go through this and look at it. With Student Voter Registration Day, of course, since it is one day in the school, but of course it's a whole lot of work to lead up to it. And we're hoping to, double the number of schools this year. We'd like to go into 50, have presence in each of the 51 districts. So if we're able to move into that, it will take a real concerted effort, identifying schools, understanding what the curriculum should be going into those schools. Do we have a prep day going into the schools? So we're really trying to grow our efforts where that is concerned. I know Mr. Ryan had real questions and suggestions and recommendations for SVRD. So we're looking forward to that. National Voter Registration Day really is right around the corner because it's September 22nd. So what we're looking there is to have a greater presence of partners. So what National Voter Registration Day is a competition throughout the country to see who can register the most amount of eligible voters on a single day. And it's a way to try to engage the citizenry before we get to the general election. So it's an activity that takes place. And it's something that we have led, actually, in New York City. We have been the lead organizer working with the national organization. So we look to bring on new partners each time for that activity.
And both the years that we've done it, we've been #2 in the country, so really impressed.
Right. So we're trying to get to Texas.
Beat that Texas jurisdiction that keeps meeting us.
We can do it. And then as part of our Get Out the Vote activities, is something that we launched last year. And I think Eric is still in the room. Yep. So Eric and I have worked really hard on that. And it's about all year long, we're registering people, and then what? So capturing all of that information, going back to the metrics, and going back to them, reminding them that we registered them, starting relationships with each voter, giving them a place where they know that they can come to as well. Of course, they have the Board of Elections, but they have us too. And helping to give them a steady stream of information, and we do this with our communications department. So so part of that is phone banking, so we do a lot of calls. They create postcards that go to everyone that we've registered, and in some cases there have been canvassing and door knocking by some of our partners. So that's a big effort that we really want to expand. And I think Eric would give me the thumbs up when he says, we feel that we've moved the needle a little bit when we have examined our numbers in comparison to the city average. So
What
we
numbers
are.
are we talking about? What numbers?
People actually going to vote.
Yeah, so we've looked at the number of people who we've registered and then did it make a difference? Did those same people go out and vote if they received a phone call from us, if they received a postcard from us? And do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, the pilot program, Sure, yes. The pilot program we ran back in November with postcards and phone calls to our newly registered voters that we registered National Voter Registration Day in the gubernatorial race made what we thought to be after the analysis, we made a significant difference. New voters, that is, voters registered as of the beginning of 2014, turnout rate was about 18%. For people who received the postcard from us the weekend before the election, turnout was about 24. The people who got postcard plus a phone call was, and I'm off the top of my head right now, but it was close to 30%. For people who got postcard weekend before the election and a phone call that night before the election. So we conducted a similar test with the special elections in the spring. We're working on analysis of that. We need to match it with the new voter history file once we receive that. But we are hoping to use these pilot programs as a basis to really scale up for next year during the presidential year.
Now, one of the topics that's come up in previous years has been, we've talked about collecting email addresses and Twitter handles, and we know that the voter registration forms don't have those fields currently. But have we made any attempts to start collecting electronic contact information for the folks that we are registering?
Absolutely.
Email addresses on.
Are on the form, yeah.
The Twitter handle is not. What we don't have is, because it's not in the law, we can't do it, is mandatory email.
Sure.
And, that would be a real way for us to be able to collect that data. But we just can't, and even, we had that discussion even when we were doing, talking about the fields.
Sure.
When we go to online, or electronic assisted registration, we won't call it online, which fields are going to be red asterisk fields that don't allow you to move forward. And unfortunately, the email address is not one that we can mandate presently. We encourage everybody to give email addresses, and any way that we can get an email address and attach it to the voter registration information would be great, because we're hoping, and one of the things that we're working on is to try to push information out. I mean, we have to, according to the state statutes, there are notifications that we have to do by first-class mail. It's a bit of an antiquated way to do it, but I think that we're on firm footing if we do the first-class mail plus, an electronic communication. And you're just doubling your efforts of, and doubling the likelihood that somebody will actually get it and read it.
Is there any provision for, I haven't looked at the new voter registration form, so I don't know if this is on there. If you ask for a cell phone, could there be a text mechanism set up? And because certainly with a lot of young kids, even people under 25, they're texting a lot more often than they're using
Right.
email.
And I
Over
think,
25 too.
yeah,
Yeah,
some people over 25.
way over 25.
I'm going to get rid of my rotary dial phone next week, but.
Don't tell Verizon that.
But when I said that, I meant email really to cover all forms of electronic communication, because yes, I mean, clearly, everything that we're building in terms of infrastructure is going to deal with the ability to push out electronic information, and that will depend on what fields of data we have. So clearly, if we have your cell phone and your email, when we do a data push, you'll get a text alert and an email alert. I mean, the idea is to try to, communicate with people the way that they want to be communicated with, Unfortunately, as I said, and I'll just repeat it one more time, because of the way the statute is written, we can't exclude the 44-cent postage cost. You know, we have to include that. So anything that we do will be that plus, you know, a text message, that plus an email.
Well, I would just add to what you said. The one great thing about the postcards is we have everybody's address. The address is mandatory, and every voter has
Right.
a physical address. You know, the email and the mobile phone number are kind of opt-in, right?
Right.
And so somebody's got to come forward and give us the address, give us the phone number. We have that address, and that's a reliable way
Right.
to connect.
The problem that we see, and it's true based on all of our data, the Presidential Commission report that was promulgated, or published, I should say, in January of 2014, clearly corroborates that, which we already knew,
May I have
which
your
is,
attention, please? May I have your attention, please? This is your fire safety director. We're concluding our test of the fire alarm system. We're still testing the fire alarm system. Please ignore any lights or alarms you may hear in the following moment. May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? We're conducting a test of the fire alarm system. Please ignore any lights or alarms you may hear in the following moment.
But not everyone has a cell phone.
you know,
Is there a list that's shared between the Board of Elections and the CFB? Are you working on the same list, or are we doing two separate parallel efforts?
we're doing parallel efforts.
Yes, we are.
We could merge them. I mean, there's no reason why we can't. I mean, our lists are public record in any event. So if there was, you know, we're looking at a couple of different things in terms of sharing the voter list information with our poll sites. And, you know, one of the things is to have a full-on data file on the tablets that we're going to be implementing, and as an alternative, a link to our database to have redundancy. It does, if we're creating that anyway, it doesn't seem to me like, I would say clearly, a full file, you know, is easy enough to do on a regular basis. And then I would have to just check back with our tech people in terms of security, whether the external access to the link, you know, what protocols we would need to put in place. But again, if it's public information is public information. You know,
And we use those voter files for the
Right.
voter guide too.
Right, yeah, I mean, so
yeah.
I think we should clearly look at a better, more efficient way to get you guys the information that you need without question.
I mean, just to add to that, I mean, I think that we've been working together pretty well. We have great relationships on the staff level. Like the mail that we did in the spring during the special election was based on the voter file, not on our list. So that's, I mean, that is ongoing, and certainly we should continue to kind of explore ways to make that more efficient.
And I thought I was making a point before the fire alarm went off, and I, to be honest with you, I lost my place. If anybody has an idea where I was going with it and you think it's worthy, otherwise we can just move on. It's been a long day. It's my second board meeting of the day, so.
Maybe the mayor has a.
I don't think I'm going to know what you were thinking, but I had a separate 2 points.
Okay.
One was, could you tell us what your sample size was in both of those surveys that you took, approximately?
So surveys is probably the wrong way to say it, but I think, again, I could
Or your
follow up.
polling.
I'm happy to follow up with you after the meeting. I'm going to give you what I recall off the top of my head. So for the special elections in the spring, we reached maybe half of the newly registered voters in Assembly District, Brooklyn Assembly District, and because the CD11, Staten Island part of Brooklyn, is larger, maybe somewhere in like a quarter to a third. So of newly registered
What are
voters.
the numbers?
So is it like, is it 500, is it 1,000?
No. So the total, let's see, we mailed probably close to 5,000 overall. So, you know, split between those two districts. So
But we haven't finished the analysis of that. So
Correct.
the numbers that you were talking about are in our report.
okay,
Uh,
so
report,
so
yes.
the numbers from November, from last fall, are in the voter assistance report. We have yet to conduct the analysis on numbers from the spring. So once those, you know, turnout numbers are together, we'll share those.
Okay. And the second question actually is just I mean, this is like, you know, from registration, get out to vote, and then I think the last part, and getting people to vote, is perhaps we could do some analysis or capturing data of difficulties people are having at the voting booth or getting into the voting booth. And so, a thought that we had was, perhaps, finding places where we have the most common complaints and the most common locations, so kind of like a comp stat for voting. I don't know, Mike, if there's something that you're already doing along those lines, or there's something that VAAC could also do where, proximate to every election, now we have a couple of special ones coming up as a trial, to perhaps let people know that if you are having difficulty voting, please let VAAC know, so that we can also keep a record of the challenges people are having, and so that we can ameliorate those going forward, especially for the next election, which is going to be a much larger election next year.
We do that on a lot of different levels. We have our phone bank that we operate in and around election time.
Right.
Actually, it's operated all year round, but it heats up, and we expand the number of call takers that we have. We have our voting techs that go out into the field on election day, voting machine techs with their tablets, so some of that work is related to that. We also have our ADA journals that we keep, and we have staff dedicated to that. And then we're working with the plaintiffs' attorneys in United Spinal. We just came up with a new form that the federal court has asked us to work together with them. And when the federal court asks, it's really not an ask, it's a tell. But we're working with them on that. And then we have our coordinated journals, which captures all of that data. And all of that, it all gets synthesized, but not necessarily in the most usable formats, because we're getting it from disparate pieces. But I think the challenge associated with that is that we have, right now, expected to have for the general 1,241 poll sites.
Right.
So, how an outside entity other than the Board of Elections would go about attacking, trying to gather information for 1,241 poll sites is kind of a difficult thing. One of the things, and again, it's not by way of being proprietary or trying to have a chilling effect on good ideas. If VAAC was going to set up a side-by-side, kind of hotline, we would have to then discuss it, and not that it would be all that difficult with, with Amy and Oneida, but we'd have to set up a good protocol for that information to be plugged into the Board of Elections, fairly seamlessly on election day. Because the last thing that I would want to see is to have a new thing set up to try to be helpful to the voter, and then have it slow down the information getting to the to the board. We do it with other other advocacy groups, so I don't see it as a negative. I see it all as a positive. I mean, the State Attorney General's office is involved. We have a whole host of advocacy groups that come to our meetings on a regular basis, and then we meet with them prior to the elections most of the time. I'm usually pretty good at that, right? Prior to election day, having our meetings, right? And then we set up, okay, we can assign somebody, if it's coming in from a back call, say these 3 staff members will deal with back calls, and
Well, Mike, I wasn't thinking about it being like live, in the sense
Okay.
of, live response.
you talk about post-mortem.
Right, to do an
Right.
analysis, and it can be done a number of ways. A, we could be an additional resource for people to contact, so so VAAC is collecting the data, right?
Right.
Separate apart from that, we could also ask if it would be possible to review your data to say, okay, well, are there things that we should all be looking at and examining how we can improve the system potentially?
Well, on that second piece, I think of it in very simple terms. Our data is the city's data. It's the citizens' data. It's not our data. There's nothing proprietary about it. So, I mean, if you guys want to sit down and go over what you think are the points or the places of failure based on, even anecdotally, we can start to look and say, okay, we have data on this. You guys want to do an independent analysis of it? That's fine. I mean, we analyze it, but again, we're not putting a fresh set of eyes on it. We're looking at the same data fields over and over again, election after election, and quite frankly, I'm sure it gets a little blurry. And if we can get a fresh set of eyes on it and a fresh set of perspective, you know, we haven't cornered the market on good ideas by any stretch of the imagination, so we'd welcome it.
I mean, so why don't we talk about that, because I think that is, I mean, we've, you know, about doing some, because I think if you can proactively identify if there's, you know, over and over places where there's always problems, you know, either
Right.
the machines break down or whatever, maybe that whole site is flawed for some particular reason, like the electrical power is not reliable or whatever, you know.
One of the things that I
something
have,
very easy to find out.
election systems and software, our vendor ES&S doing for us, is trying to drill down a little bit more deeply into our ballot jam information, right? I mean, because the stuff that we can control you know, to some extent at the poll site, right? I mean, getting information to people about where they need to go within the poll site, and we're working on that. We're going to be, in September, and then moving forward and expanding it, we're going to be introducing more as the process moves forward, and we're looking to have full implementation by the presidential in 2016, full implementation with the tablet, but the tablets are not going to be limited to uploading the results. We're going to use that information that's available in the electronic stratosphere to get it to the voters on election day, which will include not just the voter information table, but line workers, people that can go with a tablet down the line. So one person goes to the table, next person gets serviced by, you know, by somebody with, you know, with the tablet. But the other piece of it, what did you had said about?
I mean, just that you could identify, you know, problem areas, you know,
Right.
where, and maybe there's some simple solution to them. You
Right,
know,
so we're doing all of that kind of stuff, and it's happening, you know, dynamically. And I think that as we move forward with all of this technology that we're doing, we should be able to service the voters better than they had been serviced in the past. You know, but in terms of the backups at the poll sites, the point I wanted to make is, to the extent that there are ballot jams, we'll have the vendor looking into whether or not, since, here's the thing, right? The way that it's set up, you'd really have to go to our warehouse and see it. I mean, it's quite extensive. The machines are zoned, and they go from the same place back to the warehouse, and then from the warehouse back to the same place. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at is whether there are some lemon machines out there, right, that are disproportionately impacting a particular voting location because it's going back to the same place and it's experiencing the same problems all over again, right? I mean, so it sounds kind of basic and kind of rudimentary, but when you have 1,241 poll sites and you're deploying over 5,000 machines and they go out and they come back and they go out and they come back, you know, right, it could happen. And we're pleased with the aggregate data. If you were to examine from 2010 to 2015, the reduction in ballot jams, you would be very pleased to see the downward trend. However, if they're still occurring where they're occurring in the same place over and over and over again, then you're disproportionately affecting that area, and you're causing people to become disenchanted, if not actually disenfranchised.
And Mike, I just wanted to say, like, you know, it's been a pleasure serving with you for the past year and a half. You have a Herculean task, and I thank you for your service, and you know, appreciate your forthcomingness with sharing information. I know I've personally found it very illuminating and helpful, also as I relate the information back to the public advocate. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This concludes the testing of the fire life safety equipment. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you.
So just to bring it back to the voter outreach piece, because I think all the studies show that, you know, touching a voter when possible, right, close to voting day is a good idea. Have we thought about employing any kind of technology like nuance on outbound calls?
Oh,
Like
we've talked
AI
about it.
or,
Yeah,
you know.
like robo kinds of calls.
Well, you can actually, they're actually robotic calls, and not robotic, but they're actually intelligent robotic calls. Like the old school robocalls, you get a pre-recorded message, and that's the only option. And today, the technology's at the point where you can make a call, and they'll say, hello, I'm calling from the Campaign Finance Board, do you have a moment to speak? And then you can actually have a simple conversation, all generated by software with the person on the other line. And then when the call gets too complicated, then the software knows to say, well, hold on a second, let me get somebody who can help you. Then it turns over to a human voice. But it's now, like when you call almost any place, including you call Amazon or you call most big companies now, you have probably a 50% chance of getting a robot on the other phone, on the other end, that you have no idea is a robot. And so we're at this point where, you're kind of like hitting this place where, like you have one intern. Well, that intern could be, supporting, 200 outbound calls at the same time. So, like I think we really kind of need to be looking at some of those kinds of technologies, because we can expand the outreach effort and get more people to the polls.
One of the things that we did, I believe it was for the September primary last year, it might have been for the November general. In either event, we did it again, as it came up to the special election. We did a traditional robocall into districts where we knew we were going to, or we had anticipated shortfalls of poll workers, to try to get, to let people know, hey, you could be a poll worker if you wanted to be a poll worker. And we got a decent enough response. It was a small sampling because we limited only to problem areas, but the suggestion was made, and I don't remember if it was at the last VAAC meeting. Somebody had made the suggestion of expanding that to voters as well.
Yes.
And I think that's a good idea, but I think for us as the Board of Elections and the people that are counting the votes, if it wasn't going to be something that could be done to all voters, I think it would be very difficult for us to be in that situation.
Right. That's
where others might, but it's still, I think the point is well taken, that it's another area of the utilization of resources that really hasn't been tapped into.
Yep.
Danielle, want to say something else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I was listening from the beginning, surprised. We are still has a problem to outreach the community, outreach the voters. That is most number one problem with less in turnout. How we have to involve every borough should be voter registration form. Community board has to be voter registration form. Hospital has. Last year, 30 city agency, I was with the volunteer Alda and Barman Center, and I visited 7 city agency, and 4 of them doesn't have a voter registration, and they are not helpful. We have to change. This is number one solution we have to solve. And then another thing has that community board has to their registration form. And district council 37, they have an event almost every day. And there was over 500, 300 people in there. I think we should have to sit down, the executive director, to bring up this issue on their table. And
Which district is that?
district council 37.
Okay.
Okay? And another thing is that we have to collect every organization, president, email, telephone number, give them some kind of action. Who will be want to be winner this year voter registration drive? This kind of action needed. Another thing is that high school graduation day should be we have to register day, or orientation day should be the voter registration day. And number 4, this month, 17 or 18, our Ramadan start 1 month, and 30 days, 30 even, 30 bor, 5 bor. And almost every day, over 200 to 300 people will be the event. That these 30 days, even the mosque, over 1,000 every Friday. That should be the emphasis to voter registration day. And another thing, last special election, I think last month or one month, I saw a couple of old people so interested to get out and vote. I think special election day or any other election day, emphasize, let them access right to pick up the disabled old people, get out and vote, which I did last special election, take out 4 people to get out and vote and drop them. I think youth should be involved to volunteer, knock it out the door, helping them get out and vote. This is my vision and mission. I think we can change a lot.
Thank you.
I just had there's like 2 little quick updates associated with the first 2 points that were raised. In July of 2014, Mayor de Blasio made his first executive order, and his first executive order was to really begin to hold the city agencies accountable for giving out voter registration information, making it either available on paper the way the old law had said, or to do it more with electronic assistance. We've been working with the administration very closely. One of the problems that they found out, you come in as a new administration with great intention, but the city is large. And they found that there was a disparate level of technology at the city agencies. Some had progressed nicely and were in good shape, and others were lagging behind. So immediate, full-scale electronic assisted voter registration wasn't possible. So we are going to be going live sometime in August. A date has not been picked yet, but it will be, with the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, is going to be the first agency that we go live with, and we've been partnering with the administration. And I can tell you that at a very high level, the administration is taking this very seriously. So that's good news, and it's coming. It's going to take some time, but that's coming. And our commissioners approved. It's a little bit of old technology, right? Paper, but paper gets information out there as well, and you need it. We have new displays that we've purchased, and they should be coming in next month, that will be sent out, which will include not only voter registration forms, which they've always done, but also a poll worker application. It's more streamlined. It'll be in the 5 covered languages that we have: English, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and Bengali. They'll be in all the languages, although for poll workers, the state law mandate is that they must speak English, right? So, and they will also be going out to elected officials and to all of the community boards in the city. So we do have, some of the stuff that you raised is in the hopper, other of it isn't, but that's all good news, I think.
Thank you.
And I think it's really,
We are improving.
we're improving, and I think it's the work of, a VAAC and the other folks as well. I'll take some time to, my mom used to say, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. I won't do too much of that, but I think that there's a new openness at the City Board of Elections as well, and I think that's, the current crop of commissioners are committed to it. And I take my direction from them, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Karen.
There is one other thing I'd like to raise. I know we talked about Advocacy Day at the last meeting, but that is another item on this for our members to consider participating in. And another area I'd like Mike to talk a little bit more about, because since then I know, because I've spoken to some of the legislators, and they said they've been meeting with you regularly.
Yes.
So if we could get an update on what's going to be signed by Friday.
Well, you know, I can say this because there is no blowback on me, nothing. All right? However, I will say, it is not for lack of effort or for lack of consensus. And without going too far into extraneous issues, I think those of us that are in and around this process and pay attention to it closely can appreciate that there have been some external reasons why the legislative agenda was not able to be completed as robustly as it might have been under different circumstances. And I think that that's unfortunate, but it's an unfortunate reality. The good news is we're close to some real consensus on stuff. The problem is it's going to have to wait until probably November-ish in order for it to happen, because once they go out of session by the end of the week, they're not back until after election day.
In January.
Right, but they'll probably come back in a little bit. There's some talk that they're going to come back in before the first of the year. We'll see, but yeah, I remain hopeful and optimistic about certain things, because keep in mind, whatever we do, they want to have in place for 2016.
Right.
So that's where I'm pushing them. So we might be able to get them to come into special session a little bit and maybe get a few things done. We'll keep our fingers crossed. But in any event, we will be sitting down with them, leadership in the not elected leadership, but leadership within the staff leadership within the Senate and the Assembly to sit down and hammer out some things along the lines of streamlining the ballots and such. All that having been said, there is still going to be a limited amount of real estate on the ballot. And I wait for a show of hands amongst the state legislators, which one of them wants to go to page 2. I don't see a lot of excitement for that prospect. So, that full-face ballot presents challenges.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you. Please do.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, public comment.
Any public comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure.
You can come.
Yeah, you can.
I just pressed the button.
So hi everybody, my name is James Hong. I'm the Director of Civic Engagement at the Minkwon Center for Community Action. We are a 31-year-old organization in Flushing, Queens, and we work most directly with the Korean American and Asian American and immigrant communities. We do a lot of different things, but voter engagement and civic engagement is one of them, and we have been doing this very intensely for the last, I'd say, 15 years. We've registered over around 65,000 voters since we started our registration program back in 2004. Last year we reached out to like 35,000 voters, direct voter contacts. So I just want to, just a couple of points. I just want to thank you for a few things. Leadership on the advocacy that you did in Albany. We sent someone and they said it was a good experience. And the yearly, just putting out the voter guide, really great quality of the publication. We think those are resources very well spent by the city. And from our standpoint, the quality of translation is quite good. And so we thank you for that. Just a couple of suggestions, or just wondering about things coming up. There is a special election now going on in Eastern Queens, District 23. I was wondering if that was going to be, taken up by the Campaign Finance Board or VAAC in terms of any publication or information going out.
I guess you might have come in after I
Yeah,
gave
I'm
my.
sorry I was late.
So the Council District 23 election, because of the timing of it, is going to be a regular it's an off-year regular election, though there'll be a primary and a general election, and as such, we will be producing and mailing the voter.
It's not going to be a primary and a general.
No?
No, there was some information that got out, and we checked the city charter.
Exactly.
And even though it could, like an assembly or a Senate seat, follow the regular primary and general, for city offices, it will be an election within an election. It'll be a special election within the general election, and it will still be under a nonpartisan election.
Even Council District 23?
Yeah.
That's specifically the one I'm talking about, is Council District 23. So what'll happen is, you guys may remember, this happened in Queens about 5 years ago, where there was a special election at the same time as the gubernatorial. And what'll happen is, under those circumstances, it'll be, nobody will run with a party banner. They'll have to petition themselves onto the ballot, which I think for council races, it's 5% of the district, of the subdivision, but whatever the number is, they'll have to get a number of signatures and they'll have to qualify.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to establish their own little symbol. And then, the way our process works for everybody to understand is, first in time is first in line. The first one, it's a race through the door to file an apparently valid number of signatures. And if you do that, you then get position A, and then so on down the line. So it's a special election within a general, a little bit different. Had it been an assembly or a Senate seat, you would have been exactly correct. And some information.
Because our reading of the city charter is slightly different than
Yeah.
that, and that's why I said that we were going to, I have to go back and look at. the
Right,
way
and we went over this
the
with the
city-
mayor's office, and we got an opinion from one of the higher-ups in the law department. Doesn't matter, I cannot remember who it was, but there was a recent, I just read the email yesterday, so even with my frail memory, I managed to remember that one.
Okay, so
The proclamation was issued.
yesterday at
Uh,
5 p.m.
Right, so the proclamation was issued, so within 3 days from the vacancy, the mayor has to issue a proclamation declaring the special election, which was done. Under some circumstances, it would be within 45 days. Under these circumstances, because of the timing of the vacancy, it gets rolled into the general election. And there's a lot more rules associated with that, but just suffice to say, the mayor declared the election November 3rd.
And
November 3rd.
Polls open promptly at 6.
Are your email addresses organized by ED?
No.
Even District 23?
Right. Yeah, that's the Wepford district.
yeah,
Right, so he,
but no matter what, we will do an online voter guide as we always do, translated into
Yeah,
all
always.
languages. So I mean, no matter what, we will be doing that. The
And that's
certification.
now printed.
I have to look at because we had our lawyers had a different interpretation of the charter than obviously, but you guys trump us because you're
well,
in charge.
we didn't trump anybody. I think our lawyers had the same
Yeah,
different interpretation, but
okay.
the city lawyers have
Okay.
a different interpretation.
Okay, so then, but the certification deadline for joining the Public Matching Funds Program is 7 days after that proclamation. So that's next Monday is the deadline. Monday, June 22nd is the deadline to join the Public Matching Funds Program.
When are the signatures due?
The signatures are due, I guess it's like shortly after that, because you have a little bit more time from this is only 7 days. I think you have, I don't know, something like 14, 20 days.
Right,
30
yeah,
days.
I don't know what the signature deadline is. It might be 12 days. I think it's 12 days after the proclamation is done. So people got to be out there gathering signatures. So if they're not paying attention, they're already behind the 8 ball.
Just to answer your question about outreach, we will conduct some outreach. Well, we will conduct a lot of outreach in that district. So what we're trying to do leading up to 2016 is that we've tested the first election that Eric was talking about, and then the spring election, and we're trying to see what our success is. So as we're going into 2016, we know exactly what kind of resources to put into it, or how we need to expand the program, as Art is talking about the different types of intelligent kind of technology that we can use. So we are looking to go into the district in Queens. I've been speaking with Mazeda already. We have an intern already assigned to it as well. So we're developing a plan, an outreach plan. And we'd love to include you in that conversation.
One of the things that would be great to do would be to take the voter rolls and the email addresses and just do a simple SQL query and assign email addresses to EDs.
See, we do that for the election day worker folks, but we don't have that done that way for voters. I mean, and I'm sure it could be done.
Yeah. I think if you can't do it, we can get volunteers
That's
to do
what
it.
we've been doing with the information that we put in. That's the way we've been categorizing.
I understand that, but
Right.
I'm trying to
But
get
it's so
the
much
greatest,
more.
the
Right.
largest set of addresses and contact points that we can, so that we can run the best election that we can, especially in a special
Reach as
circumstance
many
like
people
this.
as possible.
Yeah,
For sure.
great. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, just one more thing is, I'm so glad to hear about the push for registration, and that is of course a critical part of the process. But in the end, we want turnout, and it's if you look at the people who do turn out, I just ran these numbers the other day. The lowest turnout is among the unaffiliated voters. People who are not part of any political party. Now, there is a reason for this. If you don't join a party, you kind of don't get reached out to by the parties, but also you don't join a party because you are not aware of what that means for you as a voter in New York State. So the policy is one thing, which we can talk about that. But given the policy as it is and the laws, it would be great to have more New Yorkers be aware of first the deadline for changing one's party before the primaries of the next year, which comes very early, and also just what it means in terms of the closed primary election system that we have. So I'm sure it's detailed in the voter guides. If I remember correctly, it's at least mentioned. But if it was more pronounced or maybe emphasized more, I think that would go a long way.
The calendar, on the Board of Elections calendar, they have those.
Yeah.
Last time I looked at, they have the calendar has the dates when you're supposed to, you
Is that,
can change your
online?
party. It's online.
Right.
The calendar's online.
So I just I really just kind of speak from the point of view of like a limited English proficient voter who is kind of getting your publication, and I know it's very helpful for them because you print it in Chinese and Korean. So I think that is really the interface that I'm thinking about, or the like sort of a printed thing. So
Yes.
yeah,
If you can print, can't you put, Ryan, can you print it out, the calendar, and it's in various
Print it from the
languages?
website, or a printed guide,
Yeah.
and our online
It's a
guide.
small, what is
Yeah.
it? Last time I did it, it was like one page, front and back, front and back, with folds.
right. So it's more a suggestion maybe for 2016.
Yeah.
So that's really.
Yeah.
At the end of this year,
Yeah.
let them know.
Yeah.
Well, the
this
other
is a
thing is
good
if
idea.
you subscribe, if you follow the Board of Elections or the CFP on Twitter, all these key dates will also come up, and so I think one of the great roles that community groups can serve is when you find out something like that, then you become another distribution point. It doesn't have to be via Twitter. You can convert you find out the information and you can convert it into paper or email or whatever.
Yeah.
One thing we do, again, this is electronic, so it's not, but we also we produce these voter spotlights, and so they change, and they highlight all those dates, so you can get that from us, and put that whole spotlight on your website. Again, it's electronic. I understand, if you're dealing with people who want more, or would rather have paper, but, so that's one of the things we do.
We put that out.
And the other thing from our perspective, I know we have our language assistance roundtable coming up on Friday at our office where we invite everybody in, and I believe your group typically attends. But always are in need of Korean, particularly Korean interpreters at the poll sites. So we typically have shortages of Korean interpreters. So anything that your network of folks can do to help us in that regard would certainly be welcome. They don't get paid a lot of money. They get paid the same as the regular poll workers, and we're hoping that we're going to get a raise on that. But in any event, if you can pitch it like it's a civic assistance and a civic duty, then the money becomes secondary, you know? Yep. Now, Ms. Lopez, I have an internal email that seems to differ with the proclamation that was
You want to just talk
promulgated.
about, why don't we talk
Yep.
about this after?
Yeah, exactly, but I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned it. Yep.
I have a big problem. I mean, we need to talk about that.
Right,
but
okay.
Let's talk about it after. Yeah.
Hi, so
Okay.
I'm Rachel Foss from Citizens Union. I'm always very happy to be part of the public comment and knowing that these meetings are more like a discussion rather than,
Yeah.
you know, you listening and not knowing what the response is. So anyway, it's a nice change from other government meetings. I wanted to comment a little bit about the agency registration initiative. I know that Ms. Ada was part of the effort with ALDEF to evaluate how agencies were doing. Citizens Union was part of that last year. We'd like to think that spurred directive number 1. And I know the VAAC obviously is doing a tremendous amount of work and the Board of Elections too to get agencies up and running. But just to flag, over the summer, the first compliance report is going to be coming out from the Mayor's Office of Operations. The agencies are going to be reporting to them by the 15th, and then by the 15th of July, and then by the 15th of August, a report's going to go to the City Council for the first time. I imagine that there will be testimony and hearings about that report, but I think that's an important milestone for the VAAC to look at in terms of how that initiative is going, and really looking at how the next year and further implementation is going to, how that'll be, you know, how we can do better as a city, knowing that this is just the first year. So.
And Rachel, just to clarify on something I said earlier, while we're going live sometime in August with the electronic component of this, we have also been working very closely with the city agencies to get them the paper forms, which hadn't been, you know, happening regularly. And the thing about them is they do have, well, yeah, that's coming too, but that's all going to be part of the August initiative. Yeah. But the paper forms are, we call them code 9s. They're a generic code that says they're going to a city agency. The reason they're generic and not traceable back to the specific agency is because, you know, especially depending on the types of services that you're getting from the city, you don't necessarily want it linked back to your name. And for privacy issues, we made it a generic code for all city agencies, and then the city agencies individually will have to compare what we get back by way of code 9 to what they've distributed.
Yeah, and I think that's the exact great point, is that the first time we're going to have data by agencies to see how agencies are doing is going to be a result of their own reporting of how many forms they've distributed, how many they've collected, sent back to the board. So I think those are just important milestones just to make sure that the VAAC is, I know you're thinking about it already, but I think it'll be, in addition to the role you play, obviously supporting that, I think you also have a more advocacy lens on this that's a little bit different and unique, I think, and could really play a role with the mayor's office in trying to evaluate best practices and how we can move agencies forward and get them to do, you know, look at the agencies that are doing the best job and how do you replicate that at all agencies. And the only other thing I wanted to flag tonight is that I think I may have mentioned in a previous meeting of the VAAC, we had a capstone report from City College Dean of Graduate Students that was looking at all the different voting initiatives there are out there to increase turnout, and really doing a deep dive into literature reviews of what policies actually work and direct voter contact and the type of follow-up that you described with the postcards you do, the phone calls you do, seems to be, at least from the research that team did, the most effective way to boost turnout. So it's really exciting to hear about your initiatives there, and we'll share the final report with you now that it's actually ready.
Why do you have to invite them to come and present to us?
Yeah, that's true as well. Well, they're no longer technically commissioned to be working with us, but I think they'd be happy to anyway. They're City College graduate students who just finished the report. But anyway, so I just thought I'd mention that their findings were that type of direct outreach is really the most effective in boosting turnout, which is the goal of you know, your work here, obviously. So.
Why don't you introduce your colleague who's going to step
Oh,
into your
good
big
point,
shoes?
yeah. Also, Talia Werber is our new policy and research manager, so she's here for the first time for this meeting.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. This is so helpful and so important. City agency, there are more not registered.
Okay, do we have any other comments, business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, see you next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.